This is our monthly meeting of the Public Service Commission. Y'all hear me okay? All right. This is October. This meeting is casual. If you have a coat and tie on, it's a $2 fine, okay? We're in downtown Buras, Plaquemines Parish. So welcome everyone. Let's go ahead and get started. We'll all rise and we'll have our prayer and our pledge. Where's our flag? Oh, very good. I want to ask Commissioner Craig Green to open with our prayer.
Our Father, who art in heaven,
Hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us of our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. Thine is the kingdom and power and the glory, now and forever. Amen. I ask Chairman Commissioner Scametta to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, y'all can be seated. You know, there are 5 public service commissioners in Louisiana. Each of us has a footprint over a certain part of the area. And this beautiful area down here is the area that Commissioner Eric Scametta covers, and he has chosen this month to have the to get together here. So we always enjoy coming, Eric. Thank you for opening. Do you have any opening statement for us?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman.
Commissioner, you have to press the button.
Press, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Oh, thank you, Chairman. Want to thank the Parish President Hinckley for arranging the Buras Auditorium, and I want to thank, I know we have a couple of councilmen who are going to come up at the request of the chairman. Plaquemines Parish is one of the 10 parishes that I represent. It is bustling with economic activity with the new LNG export facility plus the new port that is being built here. And it's amazing to see the attendants who are here today marvel at the size of this new export facility. It is massive, and from my understanding, it's the largest private development right now in the world, with $20 billion being spent in its development and more than 10,000 employees involved in the construction. So it's unbelievable, the activity that's going on in Louisiana and the jobs that are there from the use of our petrochemical industry. So it's been a good experience, I think, coming down here. We hope that one day when the facility is complete, that we can arrange tours for the commission and for attendance maybe in the future. Fortunately, while it's under construction, they had to say no because of the hazards associated with the construction. So otherwise, it's a Plaquemines Parish is such a beautiful place and such an important part of the Louisiana economy, guarding the gates of the largest maritime highway in the United States with the Mississippi River, the linear port that goes from the mouth of the river to Baton Rouge. It's a critical element in the economy of Louisiana. So it's a real pleasure to come down here and also be amongst historic friends that we have in our community. So I'm just glad that we take a few meetings a year to move the meeting around our state, and it's a real pleasure to be here in Plaquemines Parish. Thank you.
This parish has a parish government system, and we're privileged to have 2 of our parish councilmen here. I'd like to ask them to come up now. And we got some chairs, 3 chairs. If you would sit right here where this microphone is, both of you come up, please. It's Mish Juricic. I'm working on it. And Ronnie Newsom. I told him, I said, Ronnie, your name's easy. Mish. And we're just, these are some of the local guys that are, that handle the area, their designated area, all down here from Venice to Empire. And I want to say to Mitch, we had dinner last night, some of us, at a place called Ponderosa Restaurant. If you cross the Empire Bridge, you can look down and you can see the place. That's some great seafood. I had to quit eating the oysters. They were so good. Those raw oysters and charred that I really appreciate. But I'd ask these guys to come up and just give us a little 2-minute talk about what's going on in Plaquemines Parish and why are you making a sacrifice to be a public servant for the people. Because, when you get to the parish level that you're at your job, the people that have elected you, they know where you live and they come to your house, So it's a tough job, and not everyone wants to do that. I appreciate y'all doing that, and it's a great area. So is the button on? Is it a little
Yeah, the
green
button's
button?
on.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, there, Mitch.
Well, Mr. Chairman, commissioners, everyone else, it's a pleasure to be here in front of y'all, to welcome y'all down here to our beautiful parish. And, yes, me and Mr. Newsom and I ran for office this year because we wanted to make a difference in this parish. This parish has got to move forward, and we're definitely working towards that. One of the things I want to elaborate on is, we have the Mississippi River. We have, this parish, with all the miles of river, the most riverfront property of any other parish in the state, but the least utilized. And we're going to change that. We're changing that as we speak. This plant is the largest plant of its kind in the world being built here in Plaquemines Parish. We have another one in the plans, hopefully 2027, 2028. We got to get some road work done because we got to get our these traffic problems solved. But traffic's a good thing. What it's done for our economy is just truly amazing. We used to be very rich in oil and gas, drilling and in this parish, but that has kind of gone by the wayside with oil and gas moving further offshore. It's kind of gotten out of Plaquemines Parish, so our revenue stream there has really dropped dramatically. But this is the new life we breathe. The port, along our river is our next step. It's our next. Hopefully, we can get a container port in the near future. We have a couple other plans for some other. I think another LNG plant is coming. We have a methanol plant. We have a lot of good positive things looking forward in Plaquemines Parish. And it takes help from y'all as well. We really appreciate y'all doing what y'all do for us, because without y'all, it's difficult as well. But I do want to welcome y'all here. Remember, the Mississippi River, a lot of people look at it as the end. No, it's the beginning. It's the gateway to America.
Yeah.
Everything that comes into this country comes up that river. We receive goods and we export goods. This river is a very vital tool in our state, in our country, and we're blessed to be one of the parishes that live along it. And thank y'all once again for everything. And it was a great time last night. I met a lot of people. Great conversation. Appreciate everything. And thank y'all. I want to see y'all back down here again anytime.
We'll be back soon, Mitch, and those oysters were great. Now, Mitch, you're the head of the Oyster Association for Louisiana?
I'm the chairman of the Louisiana Oyster Task Force. I'm a third-generation oyster farmer from the parish. My grandparents started our business in 1904 here. Been a lifelong resident. I wouldn't change it for the world. It's a beautiful place to be, and we're very proud of what we do and our heritage down here, our seafood. Our fishing, recreational and commercial, is just outstanding. And I got to say something. You could sure eat some oysters now. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, look, Mitch and I had a little debate about who has the best oysters, and I represent Cameron Parish area in my district, and they have some great oysters in Cameron. We have some folks from the Cameron area here today, but you sure have some good ones. I had to make myself stop.
Can we call it a truce then and not argue about who's got the best anymore?
Ronnie, how about your area?
Yes, sir. Thank you again. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commission, members of the audience. Thank y'all for having us. Appreciate y'all coming to Plaquemines Parish. Commissioner Commander, thank you. Spoke a little bit last night. It's just a pleasure to have you guys in Plaquemines and just to show our parish off. That's a great asset to to the state, you know, and all. My district is District 6. If you was coming down the road, it starts probably right at past the Naval Air Station and runs through Jesuit Bend. Some sides of the road, it's on one side of the highway, another side, me and Mr. Juris split the highway sometimes, the way they drew the maps, which wasn't us. As Mr. Juris says, we took office in 2023, myself and him, and you are right about the calls and the thing. People know, you know, I'm a lifelong resident of Plaquemines Parish. I've lived here. I'm 58 years old, so I've lived here my whole life. So people know where you live. They know where you live. They know what kind of car you drive. They know where you know. So you get it at the grocery store. You get it at church. You get it all the areas that where you go frequent. But you know what? And you made it why you run. As Mitch said, I think when I decided to run, it was like I think Plaquemines Parish can be so much better, and I want to be a part of it. And we are in the process of doing that in a little bit of less than almost 2 years now. We've done some great things in the parish. Again, y'all spoke about the LNG plant, the river and stuff. Mitch spoke a few things about some other developments. He's correct. You know, there is plans for Venture Global to put another plant there in the future. Again, we have another Gulfstream LNG is coming to a spot right past, if you was coming down, it's our Point Lash Ferry. They had some leased land. They're in a permitting process now. As also Mitch talked, we have a NOLA All terminal that's being built right across from Myrtle Grove area, a terminal field. They're building a dock now. So a lot of good things are going on, and which Mitch, as Mitch spoke, it's utilizing the river, which has been extremely underutilized for Plaquemines Parish. And as we say, our port is coming along, and our port, that's what we call it. We're the gateway port now. We're not the, you know, we're the Plaquemines Parish. We want to be we're the first ones. Come stop here first, and we're doing that. Just some notes on, like I said, we talked about the LNG, the tax basis, what it's done for our parish. It's really done good. So in the last, I'd say three and a half years, taxes collected, you know, the parish gets some, the state gets some, it's probably been roughly around $500 million. And I know it seems like a lot, but that's total. The parish's take was about $50 million of that money. And the state, you know, they get the 4.5%. About $260 million went to the state. So it's a huge tax basis for us. And right, we do have problems with traffic. And so this government is really concentrated. We hear from the residents. We're aggressively in talks with the state, with DOTD about building they call it Walker Road, Peters Road, bypass road to help get out. That shoots people right down Peters Road for traffic purposes to keep them out of coming through mainstream Belchase. So we are definitely, that is one of our it is our number one infrastructure project that we are working hand in hand with those folks to make life a little better for residents. And look, it is a problem, traffic, but it's progress. And I tell folks, if we didn't have problems, if we didn't have the progress, we'd have real big problems. Well, you know, so just with these numbers have improved our. Some folks are going to argue quality of life. But it's a short-term problem that'll be. It'll be finished in the future. So those are a couple of things we got going on in the parish. And again, just thank y'all for coming. Mr. France, I thank you, Chairman, for coming and enjoying yourself last night. That's what it's all about, fellowship, hanging out, talking, and having some good times. Well, again, thank you.
Ronnie, and thank you, Mitch. And Mitch, you're welcome to come to Cameron and eat some of our oyster sometime, okay?
I'm gonna be over there. Maybe I'll set up an oyster task force meeting over there one of these days. And look, I just want to let y'all know, Mr. Newsom's 2 minutes never lasts 2 minutes. He's always much quicker.
Okay, all right, thank y'all. Thank you for coming.
Thank y'all very much.
One thing, Mr. Jurisic, I want you to know that I've told a few people, but my great-grandfather, Nikola Skrmeta, was Croatian Zero. He was the first Croatian in the Gulf South, came over in 1899, worked in Biloxi with the Spanish and the French people in their oyster canneries. And after being here a few years, he said the coast was clear and brought over most of the Croatian folks from the coastal islands in Croatia, including your family, and brought them all in. So he's why my family and your family were all in the oyster business and the seafood business.
Yes, yes.
So it's kind of interesting historically. But we found his photo portrait and brought one over to the Slavonic Lodge in Mississippi, and I've got one framed for the Croatian Society here as well. So waiting to bring it over to him.
That's wonderful, and I tell you what, we really appreciate what he did by bringing our Croatian relatives here and all, and establishing us in the oyster business, because this really been a blessing. Thank you so much for sharing that with me.
Glad to do it.
One more, then I'd be remiss not saying Mr. Cometa helped us out in the parish government with some lighting, and I want to thank you on our government complex with some lighting, at some of my playgrounds with some lighting, some improved lights that really brought it out. So again, thank you, Mr. Cometa, for helping us out with that. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Thank you. Remind everybody, if you got your cell phones, y'all make sure you got your cell phones on. You don't want to miss a call, all right? Okay, is any announcements? This is announcement time. Commissioner Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I first want to thank all of our electric utilities who responded to my data request on advanced grid technologies. I appreciate your responses. Me and my staff will be going through those. We have had a productive conversation with the Department of Energy and the Loan Program Office to do some technical assistance workshops, maybe at the beginning of the new year, so I will follow up with you all. We'll probably try to schedule that around one of our January or February B&Es, but I just wanted to thank you all for that. Secondly, I want to thank, I know they're not here, the Center for Planning and Excellence. Recently, I was part of a Louisiana delegation to Germany to look at offshore wind and the development and the deployment here in the United States. I was joined by Mr. Blake Canfield, the General Counsel of the Department of Natural Resources, and Senator Patrick McMath, Franklin Foyle, Mark Abraham, and Mike Reese, so from everybody's districts. In this voyage, we met with the German Foreign Ministry. We met with some of the developers, especially RWE, who's developing that offshore wind, Mr. Chairman, in your neck of the woods, right outside of the Cameron Parish. And so I know we have significant more work to do in Louisiana to make offshore wind a possibility, but I just wanted to say that was there's some work for us, I think, at the Commission, and I look forward to further engagements on our procurement and our development of how we could potentially bring offshore wind to Louisiana. And then finally, I would like to thank all of those who participated 2 weeks ago in my district's HBCU Utility Workforce Summit. 2 weeks ago, we brought all of the utilities, our commission staff, to Dillard University in my district. We had over 60 students who were able to engage with utilities, learn about the industry, learn about the business. They have been, I know from LinkedIn, have been connecting with many of you all on potential employment and internships and externships. I think developing a workforce pipeline in this state is extremely important. So I want to thank all of you who showed up, who contributed funds to the event, who participated, and who also engaged with the students. They were extremely appreciative. I think it was a great event. I also want to, on the record, thank FERC Chairman Willie Phillips, who flew from DC to join us in that event and be present here in the state of Louisiana. So I wanted to send my thanks to all of you for that engagement, and hopefully we can continue it on in the future. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
By the way, one of our commissioners is missing today, and I want to recognize Foster Campbell, Commissioner Campbell from Shreveport. He's under the weather, and we miss him. This meeting won't be the same without Foster Campbell. We know that. But, so let's keep him in our prayers. Hopefully he'll be back to his usual self here real soon and be back. Catherine Bowman, you have some other announcements?
The only announcement I have is that the report under Exhibit 14 has been deferred.
Okay, Exhibit 14 been deferred?
The report on.
Oh, okay, report been
Yes, sir.
deferred. Okay, 14, all right. Any other announcements? I got one announcement about the seating. This front row up here, there's only one seat that looks like a Baptist church. Everybody's sitting in the back, you know. You know, when God comes, He's going to get the front row first, y'all. So y'all can move up here. And of course, Mike Hynden, he knows that. So he's on the front row. So, but thank God that we got a good God that He saves the ones on the back and the front. But I want to be up front. I want to be there first. Okay, let's go ahead, Ms. Bowman. Be exhibit number 2.
Yes, sir. Exhibit number 2 is docket number S37151. It's Utilities, Inc. of Louisiana's request for a letter of non-opposition to include a bulk usage rate on UIL's tariff. It's a discussion and possible vote on staff's report and recommendation. Pursuant to the Commission's March 18, 1994 General Order, UIL filed the above request on April 2nd of 2024, which was published in the Commission's official bulletin, and no interventions or protests were received. UIL provides water and wastewater services at approximately 19 parishes to approximately 14,000 water and 19,000 wastewater equivalent residential customers. The company requested the addition of a wholesale wastewater rate in order to charge St. Tammany Parish and the town of Abita Springs for interconnecting and using UIL's wastewater treatment facilities, as both of those systems are at the end of their useful life and/or capacity limits. The wholesale rate has been defined as a bulk usage charge and associated with the treatment process of wholesale providers' raw or partially treated sewage. The March 18, 1994 General Order requires utilities to respond to an 18-point test prior to transferring, encumbering, or otherwise disposing of assets when the value exceeds 10% of the utility's gross assets. And based on this order, staff reviewed the UIL's application, the factors, and had discovery. In connection with allowing St. Tammany Parish and Abita Springs to interconnect and use UIL's treatment facilities, UIL proposes to implement a $1.35 per 1,000-gallon bulk usage rate. The rate was determined by estimating the incremental cost to treat and dispose of bulk flows, and then applied an operating margin premium to the estimated incremental cost to calculate a return component in the bulk sewer rate, with the return flowing back to existing UIL customers. Staff filed its report and recommendation on August 22, 2024, which found that UIL's request was reasonable and recommended the Commission issue a letter of non-opposition authorizing the creation of the bulk usage rate based upon certain conditions. Staff recommends that the Commission accept staff's report and recommendation filed August 22, 2024, and issue a non-opposition to UIL's request.
Move to accept staff recommendation.
Second.
Commissioner Scametta moves that we accept staff recommendation, and seconded by Commissioner Green. Is there any discussion or opposition? Hearing none, number 2 is in the books.
Exhibit number 3 is docket number R35595. This is the Commission's review of the schedule of prescribed rates and requirements for towing and recovering services in General Order dated August 5, 2016. It's a discussion and possible vote on staff's final report and recommendation corrected. On July 7th of 2020, the Commission opened a rulemaking docket to review the schedule of prescribed rates and requirements for towing and recovering services. Notice of the rulemaking was published in the Commission's official bulletin, and several interventions were filed. Throughout the pendency of the docket, the Commission has adopted several interim rate orders, including interim order dated October 18th of 21, which adopted gate and administrative fees, interim order dated February 17th of 2022, which increased rates by 15%. And on August 9th, 2024, the Commission staff filed its report and recommendation wherein it recommended that the Commission authorize an additional 15% increase in all regulated towing and recovering rates, excluding the fuel surcharge, as well as several changes to the definitions and terms of the August 15th, 16 General Order. After the filing of staff's report and recommendation, TRPL informally requested that a second interim rate increase be considered by the Commission. That request was placed on the agenda at the Commission's August 14th, 2024 Business and Executive Session, and at that Commission, Commissioner Scametta made a motion to accept the rates of 15%, but put everything else back for comment related to the definition.
I have a motion that I'm going to read.
Okay.
You ready?
Sure.
Okay.
Commissioner Scametta, go ahead.
I move that the storage rates remain at the current rates for the first 5 days, then thereafter triple the current rate for storage days 6 through 30, and afterwards revert back to the current rates for storage on day 31 and beyond. The following are the storage rates based upon my motion. Storage rates calculated per calendar day. Storage rates for the first 5 days remain at the current rates, $31.50 per day for outside storage, $38 per day for covered storage, $57 per day for oversized storage. Storage rates for the day 6 through 30 would increase to $94.50 per day for outside storage, $114 per day for covered storage, $171 per day for oversized storage. Storage rates for day 31 and beyond would be reduced back to the current rates of $31.50 per day for outside storage, $38 per day for covered storage, $57 per day for oversized storage. I further move that we adopt the following definition of standard recovery as follows. Standard recovery: the recovery of a vehicle that does not come under the definition of a simple water recovery or complicated recovery. I further move that we adopt the definition of complicated recovery as follows. Complicated recovery: 1, rollover recovery. When a vehicle is overturned or positioned in such an irregular way that requires repositioning and an additional operator to complete the recovery. 2, removal of cargo that has become unsecured from the vehicle. 3, when unloading and reloading cargo in box trailers, box trucks, flatbed trailers, tank trucks is necessary to complete the recovery. 4, water recovery. An additional operator is required to complete the recovery of a vehicle in water greater than 12 inches in depth. I further move that the following rates be added for complicated recovery under each weight class as follows. Light duty, $350 per hour. Medium duty, $500 per hour. Heavy duty, $980 per hour. And I further move that paragraph 2, under section G, administrative and mailing fees shall read as follows. The maximum administrative fee that may be charged by a storage company for filing of the ORSV notice shall be $33.50 for in-state notifications and $39.50 for out-of-state notifications. The maximum administrative fee that may be charged for mailing of certified letters to the vehicle owner and lien holder shall be no more than the rate for U.S. Postal Service plus $10 per letter. I further move that under the GO, the entirety of Section 5, Roman numeral V, shall remain the same as the previous GO, and that any requirements to accept credit cards shall be eliminated from the GO. That's my motion.
Okay, I want to ask the staff, Tammy Burrell, do you have this information?
Good morning, Commissioners. Tammy Burrell with staff. Not exactly in the form that Commissioner Scametta read it. I did have bits and pieces that probably equivalent to what he read.
Has Commissioner Scametta worked with you to put this in your staff recommendation?
Not myself, no, sir.
So this is new information to the staff? Okay.
In the form he read it, yes, sir.
What do you want to do with this information?
I mean, staff has a recommendation that I worked very closely with other staff members to come up with. That's what I know that there was some discussions with the storage portion, the very first portion that Commissioner Scametta read. That was what staff was working with. The rest of it, it's going to be up to you, Commissioners.
You think we should consider your staff recommendation now, or should we give this information to you and let you work on it some more? I mean, I know we've been working on this for the last year. And let me stop right there. I'll just ask the other commissioners. It looks like Commissioner Green wanted to say something about it.
Catherine, I know you and I spoke. Is this something y'all are okay with?
So staff was aware of the storage component, the increase of the storage rates, as Commissioner Scametta read. Staff hasn't had time to digest the rest of what was just read out into the record. I know that some of what was read was part of comments that we received from the industry, but the rates and some of the additional changes, it's just stuff that we haven't had time to consider.
Commissioner Scametta, why was this not given to staff ahead of reading it out at the meeting?
Actually, the general order provisions were the original general order provisions. The staff was, without talking to the commissioners, changed some of the general order provisions regarding the credit card information without discussing it with the commissioners. And I wanted it to remain as the original concept in the general order of not requiring the acceptance of the credit cards. Credit cards create fraud provisions when used to pay for storage. So that's something that the staff added without talking to the commissioners about. The other issues are about the different rate structures and definitions are something that the actual towing association has been engaged with the staff on, so it should not be a surprise for the staff. And I think that, this is a matter of policy for the commissioners to determine. And while I appreciate what the staff is trying to do, I think we need to look at the problems that we face on where the legislature is holding the association in a position where they're requiring them versus other states to maintain these vehicles on a 180-day hold. And they're not really vehicles at that point. Largely, they're scrap or just destroyed things. And that's where we worked with the staff directly in discussion on how we were going to do this, like the hold of 5 days at the current rate. And then we were going to go to triple rates because most of it was going to be,
Okay.
elements.
All right.
You
So
want
this
me-
is in the form of a motion to accept these changes?
Right. These are the forms that accept the changes to to maintain the general order in the way it is before the staff wanted to change it regarding the credit card element, but also to clarify the definitions associated with what is a complicated tow, what is a standard tow, what is a water-based tow, and what's necessary. We've seen, just the other day, we had a 2-truck collision on the Mississippi River Bridge where a lady was pinned under the vehicle. That would have been clarified if we would have had better discussions about, better clarifications in our tow tariff and a better understanding of the rules where they could have got somebody out quicker and had this lady pulled out from under this vehicle in a better way through this non-consensual tariff. So it really does make sense to have these different, just clarifications of definitions. The actual rates associated with it, I know that the staff doesn't like the work associated with dealing with the towing tariff issues, but we're very close to the end of determining what the tariffs and the rules are associated with the towing and tariff program to make it simpler for the staff to do this. And I don't think that what I've suggested, and I have worked with the Towing Association on this. This is not something that I came up with on my own. This is through extended conversations with members of the industry and also talking to staff, because the staff will tell you that I did, not so much Tammy, but spoke to Catherine at length about this, that these are reasonable adjustments to what we need to do to the tariff to make it work. And so I'd like to get comments from the industry on this to explain where we are on this so the rest of the commissioners can understand why it's probably a very good idea for us to move forward on this basis.
Okay, do we have a second? Is there a second on this motion? Hearing no second, motion dies. So now we're back to the staff recommendation. I'll make a motion that we accept staff recommendation on this towing bill.
I'm just going to oppose it.
What?
A second.
And a second by Commissioner Green. Is there any opposition?
Wait. I'm sorry. Excuse me, but they do have a right to speak before we have a final vote on the issue.
Okay, all right, well, let's go ahead. Mr. Rudy, you want to go first?
Yeah, the
Okay.
green, there you go.
Here we go. I am here for mostly questions and to clear up any confusion and it seems we have a lot of confusion. We had a lot of agreement with staff coming up to this. We've discussed all these points at length. I think we're just at a few points that are still in contention, but we were so close to getting to the basis that we need for this tariff. I think this final thing, less EV storage, which we'll discuss in the future, could nail this particular docket, which is now, I don't know how many years old, close to 10, and let us move along. But if any of the commissioners have questions, I stand ready to answer.
Is any other discussion? Okay,
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner.
I don't, this is the first anyone's heard of what Commissioner Scametta has mentioned, so I would motion that we postpone this to next month to give staff opportunity to digest it and get on the same page with everyone.
So to clarify, you had seconded Commissioner
Yeah, I'm
Francis.
going to
What's your
withdraw the
withdrawal back?
second and make a motion that we defer to next month so staff can further process the new motion that Commissioner Scametta made.
That sounds like a good idea to me. Is let's ask the staff to be patient with us.
Jared, did you want to say anything?
No, I don't see Mike has any questions for me.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to give you the opportunity.
Okay, so we've deferred this to next month. Is that right?
Yeah, assuming there's no opposition.
If there's no opposition, and hearing no opposition, it's deferred. Okay, we'll move on to Exhibit 4.
Exhibit number 4 is docket number R36131. It's the Commission's determination of Commission jurisdiction over the various methods of providing electricity to electric vehicles and infrastructure associated therewith. It's a discussion and possible vote on a joint motion for clarification or reconsideration of General Order R36131. Pursuant to an unopposed directive issued at the Commission's July 14, 2021 B&E, Commission staff opened the rulemaking to determine the Commission's jurisdiction over electric vehicle charging stations. Several parties intervened. On April 21st of 2023, staff issued its final Phase 1 recommendation, wherein staff recommended that the Commission decline to exert its jurisdiction over electric vehicle charging stations. The Commission accepted that Phase 1 recommendation and subsequently issued General Order dated May 24th, 2023. Commission staff also recommended that the docket remain open for a Phase 2 review of other topics. On July 26th of 2024, staff issued its final Phase 2 recommendation. And in that recommendation, the Commission accepted that at the August 14th, 2024 B&E and was memorialized in General Order dated September 10th, 2024, corrected. On September 20th of 2024, Interim, Louisiana, Cleco Power, and SWEPCO filed a joint motion for clarification or reconsideration of General Order R36131 corrected. In that motion, the IOUs note several concerns with the General Order. They contend that Section 601 relative to the prohibition on electric utilities from owning, leasing, operating, or controlling an EV charging station is either so broad that it prevents electric utilities from owning chargers for their own purposes, or the definitions and internal references render this prohibition superfluous and meaningless. And second, the IOUs contend that Section 801 relative to on-site solar generating units for EV charging stations is inconsistent with the definition of EV charging stations, is missing important guidance, and appears incomplete. While staff believes the order read in its entirety is clear, staff does not oppose reopening the rulemaking to review Sections 601 and 801 of the General Order to further clarify those ambiguities raised by the IOUs.
Mr. Chairman, I have some questions.
Okay, Commissioner Lewis has questions.
These first questions are for staff. How are you reading the definition of EV charging stations and what consists of customer self-generation for an EV charging station?
So, Commissioner, I mean, the definition of EV charging station is part of our General Order. It is specific, and I mean, I can read it to you. It's a person or entity that purchases electricity from its electric public utility or the municipal electric utility. It furnishes that electricity to the public for compensation exclusively to charge battery electric vehicles and plug-in hybrid electric vehicles, and is not otherwise a public utility or electric public utility as defined by the Commission and the Louisiana statutes.
Okay, and so I'm just curious, based off of that definition and those terms you just read, do you see really any legitimate discrepancies in what was written regarding the ownership of EV charging stations by a utility's own fleet, since that seems to be part of their request?
Yes, sir. I think the definition is clear, and in the entirety of the general order, it discusses, it discusses if the utility would like to seek an exemption from this order and own or operate, they have the right to come in and request that of the Commission if they deem it's in the public interest. But the definition of EV charging station is for public consumption and furnishing it to the public. So if any of the utilities wanted EV charging to, say, have an entire fleet of their own trucks, that's not prohibited under the current rules.
Okay.
Let the utilities come up.
Yeah, I do have some questions for them as well.
That are concerned with this, and call on Commissioner Scametta for the question.
Catherine,
Yes, sir.
just based on what you said, is there, under the definitions, is there a prohibition from regulated utilities having EV charging facilities that are conducted in an unregulated, separate entity?
No, sir. They are allowed, each of the electric utilities, if they wanted to have an affiliate company own, operate, lease electric vehicles, they have the right to do that as well. It just doesn't need to be, the cost of that doesn't need to be on our ratepayers. That's what the rule says.
Okay, understood. And Mr. Chairman, if it's appropriate, besides, I see Mr. Hand is up there, but if any other utilities want to come up and make comment.
Is there any other utilities here that'd like to comment on the EV charging? Seeing none.
Mr. Chairman, I would request SWEPCO and CLECO, they filed a joint motion, and I've yet to hear from either one of them on their motion. I mean, so I would love to hear SWEPCO and CLECO's position since they filed this motion
Here's
jointly.
CLECO. Okay, we have somebody with SWEPCO. Okay.
And while they come up, this is Larry Hand on behalf of Interim, Louisiana. Commissioner Lewis, to your question about the definitional...
Can you talk right into the microphone so we
Yes, sir. How's this, better? Good. So you asked about the definitional restrictions. The definition is, as you read, in terms of whether an electric utility can own EV charging. Our request for rehearing clarification is not to reopen that issue. We are not, certainly Entergy Louisiana, by that motion, is not seeking to rehear or clarify the Commission's determination that you don't want ratepayer dollars to be used to fund public EV charging. That's not the business you want us in. That's what we heard. This clarification is not about that. Section 601 of the rule has a very clear, unequivocal prohibition on public utilities from owning EV charging stations, a non-capitalized term. So that's what I'm looking at and say, well, I'm precluded from even owning one at my service center to charge my fleet vehicles. That also would preclude me from, at the request of an Entergy customer, installing EV charging at their fleet location to charge their vehicles. Again, not for public consumption. Section 601 by itself needs some refinement to make it clear that the Commission doesn't want to preclude me from owning and operating an EV charger at my fleet locations or at a customer's fleet location, provided that ratepayers' funds are not used to invest in those fleet charges. That's the intent here. When you go back to section, what I think staff and others are relying on, when you look back at the definition of EV charging, again, a capitalized term, electric utilities are precluded from even meeting that definition because the third, number 3 of it, it says the EV charging station is not otherwise a public utility. Well, I am a public utility. So I don't think the intent of the parties is drastically different, but when I look at the words, I can't get there, and I'm stuck with 601 using a non-defined, non-capitalized term with a very clear prohibition, and that's the issue on at least the first prong of the request for clarification, 601. There's a second one which gets into self-generation. When you look at the Section 101 definition again, and I thought this was where your question was going, vis-a-vis self-generation, the commission said it will not regulate the sales of EV charging to the public, but it defines EV charging station as an entity, a person or entity that purchases electricity from a regulated public utility. That's the first part. The second part is that it furnishes that electricity, meaning that electricity that purchased from a public utility. That's what it is furnishing to the public. And so when you get into the notion of self-generation, you've disqualified yourself from being an exempt EV charging station because you are now self-generating. You're not reselling the electricity you bought from the public utility. You're generating it yourself. And so those are things that need to be clarified. And, obviously I have a point of view as to how it should be clarified, but that's not the point here today. The point here today is that it's very unclear and could stand to be clarified. And I think a limited opportunity for the staff to receive comments and clarify that would be very beneficial for us all as we move forward. I think timing is of the essence. We don't want to have this drag out, but a quick comment period followed by staff clarifying these things, I think would be very helpful.
And I thank you for that. I guess I'm very hesitant on this because we litigated this. You filed comments. This was a point that we talked about it on self-gen. And we're 2 months later now. It's a kind of doomsday scenario. I appreciate that you did give me a call and we talked about this. I have yet to hear from SWEPCO or CLECO on this matter. You filed a joint motion, and this is until I called you up, neither one of you came. So I'm really concerned and confused. If this is so important, why have you not reached out on this agenda item? And also why, when requested to come to the table, you had to be called?
Well, first off, Mark Kleehammer on behalf of CLECO Power. I apologize for not reaching out to you on this one. We absolutely are supportive of the comments. They were joint comments from the three utilities here. I think you've touched on the three different items. The first and second, I think, are relatively innocuous fixes, but they are conflicting. The language is conflicting. And as Mr. Hand noted, on the third item on self-generation, as I read it, it is conflicting between the order on EVs and the order on net metering. And I don't think that you can read them both consistently without having some level of confusion. So we agree that looking at this and trying to harmonize consistent with what y'all's will is the appropriate path.
Thank you. And could you clarify what are your concerns using on-site generation for EV charging stations if the owner has already met their net metering obligations?
So the net metering rule says that you can use the power generated on site for your own usage, or you can otherwise sell it back to the grid at avoided cost. And in this instance, you're not doing that. In this instance, as I read it, you are selling it for resale. So they're very distinct concepts where you have sale for resale for EV charging versus net metering where you're selling back to the utility.
So you see no difference, and you have no problems with behind-the-meter generation being used for residential customers charging EVs?
They're not selling it.
Okay.
In no instance, they're using 100% of their power for their own needs, or to the extent that they have excess, it's coming back to the utility.
I understand. And then I think my other question, or my last question for you would be, do you have a problem with the 300 kW threshold at the Commission's approval for distributive generators? Because I'm seeing that there's a...
At this point, I think the 300 kW is consistent with the net metering rule, but again, the conflict here is between the net metering and the EV rule.
Thank you. And Mr. Gillum, I'm sorry I didn't give you an opportunity to speak, but those are my questions for the utilities.
Okay, yeah. Thank you, Commissioner. Yeah, and likewise with SWEPCO, apologize if somebody didn't discuss with you, but the concept was we were joining in with Energy and CLECO, and they were setting forth our position. So that is the same position SWEPCO has.
Thank you. I have further questions for Mr. Young, but I'll pass to the commissioners.
Commissioner Scametta?
This question, any of y'all can answer it. So what sort of steps forward in process would you like to see to achieve the clarification that concerns you?
Again, Larry Hand on behalf of Entergy Louisiana. This rulemaking was a little bit different than we've done in the past. We had extensive comments from all the parties, but we never had a chance to actually see the words of the proposed rule until the general order came out. And so I think now that we have seen those words, providing a brief opportunity for all parties, all stakeholders to provide comments on how those could be clarified, and then giving that to staff and let staff factor all that in, come back to the commission with a proposed, maybe corrected final rule, revised, or maybe not. But at least that brief comment period, and I don't know, that's really up to staff, whether that's 30 days, and then get it back to the commission, for a vote relatively soon. That's the process I would imagine.
Okay, so you actually, you saw the sort of various facts were floating around, but you never actually saw it as a unified document until the end, and that's where you saw these particular issues that were brought, a concern to you.
And I want to be very clear, there were extensive comments from all the parties. Staff's recommendation talked about these various issues, but the first compilation of the form of the rule, the words of the rule, the text of it, came in the form of general order, which came out after we all provided those comments. So our first visualization of it was after you voted on it and the written order is issued, and that's what we're seeking to clarify here.
So my question to the staff is, if you don't oppose the reopening of a rulemaking, is it the reopening of a rulemaking? How long does the staff think that you need time-wise to do the clarification?
Sure.
For whatever these particular issues are? Because they don't seem like they're broad, differences of opinion on this. They're just rather small issues.
Yes, sir, and I agree. Procedurally, it would be a remand back to the staff from the commission. I would ask, what I would envision is to let staff go back, see if we can fine-tune the actual language, put it in track changes, submit that back out to all of the interveners to review, provide feedback and comment on that. So, I'd say give us 45 days just to make sure we have time to put that together and get it back out to them. So December to January B&E, I would think.
So you wouldn't need more than 90 days, basically?
I wouldn't think so, no, sir.
Well, I'm going to just move to remand this to the staff for clarification and for comment. And so if we can just move this along and just get it done as quickly as possible, because I think it's very small issues and we can get it done pretty quickly. So just see if we can get this done as quickly as possible.
Lauren Evans on behalf of staff. Commissioner, you mean just the two sections that were mentioned in the motion, correct?
I mean to move it back for the rulemaking on whatever is necessary. I don't want to micromanage it. If this is an issue that is brought up on this particular issue, if that's what we're talking about, that's unified in the docket, then that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
If that's what's been raised by the issue of the utilities, then that's what it is. So we need to go back into a full-blown attack, but if we're going on these two particular statements that have been brought and filed, then that's what it's about. But I do move that we bring it back move it back to the staff for, on the rulemaking to clarification on these two issues.
Yes, sir.
I think on the other side of this argument would be the industrial folks, Randy Young. But if we're going to be hashing it out over the next 90 days, Randy, you have any other, I'm sorry, come forward. Commissioner Lewis has some questions for you. You guys can go. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners.
You press the button.
Right
It's got to be
into
green.
it.
There you go.
There we go. Good morning, Commissioners. Let me introduce myself, start out. Randy Young. And in this proceeding, I represent two groups. One is Americans for Affordable Clean Energy, or ACE. They're an association of fuel suppliers who want to bring private investment to Louisiana to build out electric vehicle charging stations at already existing fuel stops. So that group is companies like, for example, Love's Truck Stop, Racetrack, Circle K, and there's some others like Travel Centers of America and some others. The other group I represent is Louisiana Energy Users Group, which is a group of industrials who all buy a lot of power from Entergy and who pay a lot of attention to Entergy spending plans and rates. Both ACE and LEUG want the cost of electric vehicle charging stations to come from private investment at their cost and risk, not from utilities who will add the cost to the electric bills. That's very important to them. The other piece in this is the self-generation. So from the ACE group perspective, the fuel suppliers, I mean, I think they anticipate that a lot of the power they'll use for this will come from the utilities. But they do want to have, as they're looking at investment in Louisiana, they do want to have that path available and that opportunity available that if self-generation and solar panels combined with battery storage becomes economical at some point in the future, and they've got all this canopy space at the fuel stops, then they want the opportunity to be able to come in and ask the commission to be able to do that. And using the net metering rule and allowing that path forward is very important to them, because what it does is allows that if they see that path become economically acceptable and they want to pursue it, then they can come to the commission, file an application, let you look at it and determine if it's in the public interest and make that determination. But it's very important that they have that path and be able to come and ask you for permission to do that in the future as they consider these investments in Louisiana. And I do want to, one point I want to make clear, Commissioners. So I believe that the net metering rule does fully apply here, and it's an opportunity and a path for them. Because the way I see it, what they would be doing is using the electricity from the self-generation to supply a service, to supply a battery charging service. As I've discussed with some of the commissioners, so I grew up, my dad owned an Exxon station for 25, 30 years, and I grew up in it. And so I've been selling, or started selling battery charging services when I was probably about 10 years old. And that's just something that you're using electricity, yes, but you're selling a service. And so you are using that electricity yourself to provide that service to the customers. So I believe the net metering rule is a fit, and it's important to have that option.
No, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Young. That was going to be my question. I believe, from my reading, that the net metering rule gives a clear policy landscape of how EV charging could be used for self-generated power. And I'm failing to see the argument here that clarification is really needed. Do you, in your opinion and your two organizations' opinion, think this requires a formal reconsideration and reopening of the procedural schedule of this docket?
Well, we have said, Commissioners, that look, the 3 points that the utilities have raised, one is they want to be able to use it for their own fleet use. I think that's already covered, because the definition says it was prohibited is the electric vehicle charging stations, which is to the public for compensation. Fleet use is not providing to the public for compensation. So I think they already have that path. So I don't think you really need clarification there. Second thing is they wanted to make sure that there's an exception that they can come in and ask permission to use ratepayer money if they want to come ask you for that, for charging. That's already built into the order. That language is in the order. Staff wrote it in there, so it's there if they want to use it and come in the future. The third piece is the self-generation piece. So staff added the Section 801 as a new section that says if you want to do this, fuel suppliers, you have to follow the net metering rule, and you have to come in and ask for permission case by case if you exceed 300 kW, which they will. So I think it's already there. So am I opposed to if want to do a few word tweaks? No, but as long as we're not changing the ultimate outcome. But do I think it's really necessary? No. I do have some concern, and look, we've been working on this rulemaking for a really long time, and industry's looking at wanting to invest in Louisiana. So the longer we keep it open and in flux, the longer we don't have the rules finalized. So that's a bit of a concern, but that's my thoughts.
No, thank you. That's also my concern. I mean, I've listened, I've read the motion. My opinion is very similar to yours. We can always continue to clarify definitions, but I'm concerned that this may be using as a stalling tactic to get us to the deployment of EV charging. I'm particularly worried about the NEVI dollars that the Department of Transportation has to put put charging stations all across Louisiana, but that it requires some of your members participating. And the longer that there's uncertainty means the longer that I think some of your clients who want to build EV charging stations around the state and then pull down a lot of federal dollars, we keep pushing back. Louisiana, we're already behind the 8 ball than most of the other states pulling down this money. And so I'm deeply concerned that we are constantly further getting away from private development of EV charging stations, and then we're stuck with only one option. And so I want to thank you. Those were all the questions that I had for you, but I also really see no point for the reconsideration at this point in time.
I think the definition of those federal dollars, and we need to understand that. If I haven't seen that come up in the discussion as one of the factors that we might consider. Let me ask you this, Michelle. If I'm charging my car at one of these truck stops, say that this goes forward, is it true that this free market pricing on what the electricity charge would be, it's going to be competition just like selling gasoline or diesel? Would that be more or less true?
Yes, Commissioner. So you will still regulate as Public Service Commission the tariff that they buy the power from the utility, whether it's Entergy, SWEPCO, or CLECO, or others. So you still regulate that underlying price. But the price to the market, they'll be competing between the locations. So, and what you see at these fuel stops is look, what they're trying to do is get customers there to buy the conveniences and so forth. So it's usually a very incremental markup on the fuel itself. But there will be some markup, and they'll compete with each other for price, and the price is up on the billboards, trying to have the lower prices to get people in the door.
All right, thank you. Any other? So we're 90-day. We're going to work on this for 90 days. Is that right?
So there's a motion to remand to staff from Commissioner Scremetta related to the 2 sections in the joint motion, but we do not have a second on that.
I'll second that. Is there any other discussion or opposition?
I'll oppose, but if everybody is fine, I don't.
You're opposed to the going to the 90 days, okay.
Can we vote on it in December?
Yeah, I mean, they'll be less than 90 days. That was conversational. They said 45 days they'd get.
Yeah, I mean, just to give some time, because I mean, obviously, I want the interveners to have time to provide comments to us on the proposed revision. So I think December vote, we probably could do that.
Well, then I'll
Try to get it for December.
Yeah, we will shoot to every possible effort we can have.
And because of that, thank you for that.
So we'd all agree. We'll still bring it up at the December meeting. Okay.
I'll withdraw my
all right. So we'll have the same issue to be voted on in December. So good luck, y'all, hammering it out, okay?
Thank you, Commissioners.
All right, so we're moving on to, we're number 5?
Yes, sir. Exhibit number 5 is docket number U36809. This is Concordia's Formula Rate Plan Annual Report for 2022 test year. It's a discussion and possible vote on an unopposed motion. On October 2nd of 2024, Concordia filed its second motion to amend Commission Order number U36809 and request for consideration at October's 2024 B&E. Order number U36809 accepted Concordia's 2022 annual report and required that Concordia file a full base rate review no later than June 1st of 2024. Order U36809A, dated April 24th of 2024, extended the deadline to file the rate case by 128 days to allow time for a new engineering firm to assist Concordia with the rate study. As stated in its motion, due to additional changes in the engineering firms, Concordia cannot meet the deadline to file its rate case, and so staff does not oppose the motion as the extension would not result in any rate impact, and Concordia would simply continue charging its current rates until the result of a full rate case. Therefore, staff agrees that Concordia should be afforded until June 1st of 2025 to file a full base rate review. Staff recommends that the Commission grant Concordia's motion filed into the record on August 2nd, 2024, to extend the time for it to file a full base rate until June 1st of 2025.
Move to grant the extension of time.
Second.
Commissioner Scremetta moves to accept, and Commissioner Lewis has seconded. Is there any opposition or discussion? Hearing none, it's in the books. Number 6.
Russell, do you have anything to say, or?
What?
Thank you, and move on.
Oh, look here. You got something to say about Concordia?
So, I think that's
Huh?
No, sir, I have nothing to say.
Well, you drove all the way down here from Jonesville. You must have had something, wanted to say something.
Say howdy.
Well,
Wait, Russell, use the microphone, please.
I'm sorry.
That's okay, thank you.
Yeah.
We know who our friends are, and this commission has always been a friend of the ratepayers of Concordia Electric, and we thank you for your consideration and your help. I'm not sure if without the Public Service Commission, Concordia Electric would even exist today. So.
Well, I have some of your area. Commissioner Campbell, who's not here, has a bulk of it. And I would go out on a limb and say I think he's going to agree with what we've done here today, hopefully. But appreciate you. Tell all our friends in Jonesville we said hello. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Exhibit number, yes, sir. Exhibit number 6 is docket number U37134. This is 1803 Electric Cooperative, Beauregard, Claiborne, Northeast, South Louisiana Electric Cooperative, and Washington St. Tammany Electric Cooperatives. Joint request for a non-opposition to an asset transfer by the 1803 member cooperatives to 1803 and for operation of the same. Is a discussion and possible vote on an uncontested stipulated settlement. On March 12th of 2024, 1803 and its cooperatives filed this request, which was published in the Commission's official bulletin, with MISO filing a notice of participation as an interested party and Louisiana Generation filing a timely notice to intervene. After filing of testimony and then discovery and extensive negotiations, 1803, the cooperatives and staff were able to enter into an uncontested stipulated settlement, which was filed into the record on September 23rd of 2024. The major terms of the settlement were that the parties agreed that the proposed transaction between 1803 and its cooperative members met the burden of the 18-point analysis provided in Commission's general order, that 1803 and staff agreed that the amendments to the wholesale power contracts will help provide 1803 and its member cooperatives and their customers with economic benefits as compared to alternatives, and that the terms, conditions, rights, remedies, and limitations set forth in those amendments are commercially reasonable and have been negotiated at arm's length. Therefore, staff recommends that the Commission accept the uncontested stipulated settlement filed into the record on September 23rd, 2024.
We have a motion.
Motion to accept staff's recommendation.
Motion to accept staff's recommendation by Commissioner Lewis, second by the chair. Is there any opposition or discussion? Hearing none, it's in the books. Number 7.
Exhibit number 7 is docket number U37209. This is South Coast Gas Company's request for an interim operating revenue rider. It's a discussion and possible vote pursuant to Rule 57 of the Commission's Rules of Practice and Procedure of an uncontested stipulated settlement, so this will need 2 votes. On May 14th of 2024, South Coast filed this instant application, which was published in the Commission's official bulletin, and no interventions were received. Following initial discovery, staff filed its report and recommendation on September 6, 2024, which recommended that South Coast be authorized to implement a rate rider of approximately $2.55 per month for a period of 12 months in order to recover approximately $568,322 in revenue that would be applied to short-term debt accounts. On September 13th of 2024, South Coast filed correspondence into the record which indicated that they accepted staff's report and recommendation. South Coast and staff entered into an uncontested stipulated settlement which was filed into the record on September 27th of 2024. Staff therefore recommends that the Commission, 1, exercise its original and primary jurisdiction pursuant to Rule 57 to consider this matter, and 2, accept the uncontested stipulated settlement filed into the record on September 27th of 2024.
Motion to take the item up under item, Rule 57.
Motion to take it up on the 57 by Commissioner Green, second by Chair.
Motion to accept staff recommendation.
Motion to accept staff recommendation by Commissioner Green, seconded by the chair. I might add, we're going to have go into some discussions about the gas supply here soon. So,
yes.
Y'all have any comment on that?
No, we'll bring it up then.
Yeah,
but
that's
I think
Exhibit 15.
yes, but for a company like South Coast, it may be a bigger issue, but we'll find that out, and that'll be part of our discussion.
All right, let's go on to issue number 8.
Exhibit number 8 is docket number U37210. This is South Louisiana Electric Cooperative's Formula Rate Plan Annual Report 2023 test year filing. It's a discussion and possible vote on a joint report and draft order. On May 14th of 2024, SLECA filed its 2023 FRP filing wherein it reported that its calculated times interest earned ratio fell below the 1.4 to 1.6 bandwidth authorized in its FRP, and therefore an increase in rates was appropriate. Staff reviewed the filing, including a review of the cooperative's application, supporting documentations, and responses to data requests. Staff concurred with SLECA's finding that its adjusted tier was negative 6.33 and that the requested revenue increase should be permitted. Staff and SLECA note that while the test year results authorize an increase of approximately $9.184 million, approximately 5.2 of that in revenues are already being collected through a storm rider approved in Commission Order Number U36339-A. As such, the effective increase in the 23 test year is only approximately $3.9 million. Staff filed its report on August 7th of 2024, and on August 21st, SLECA filed correspondence into the record of this matter indicating its acceptance. And a joint report and draft order was filed into the record on October 4th of 2024. Staff recommends that the Commission accept the joint report and issue the draft order filed into the record on October 4th of 2024.
Motion to accept staff recommendation.
Commissioner Green recommends a motion to accept staff recommendation, second by Commissioner Lewis. Is there any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, it passed.
Exhibit number 9 is docket number U37215. This is Utilities, Inc. of Louisiana's Formula Rate Plan Annual Report for Test Year 23. It's also a discussion and possible vote on a joint report and draft order. On May 21st of 2024, UIL filed its Formula Rate Plan Annual Report, which was published in the Commission's official bulletin with no interventions. Pursuant to Commission Order number U36003, UIL's FRP allows the company to earn a return on equity ratio bandwidth of 9 to 10% with an ROE midpoint of 9.5%. UIL's filing reported an ROE of 8.03 for water and 6.52 for wastewater, which was a blended ROE of 6.93, which would have required a rate increase and would have resulted in an upward adjustment in revenues. Staff conducted a review of UIL's filing and determined that the company's earned ROE for 2023 test year for water was 8.51 and wastewater was 6.58, with a blended ROE of 7.1, which is still below UIL's established bandwidth. As UIL's earned ROE fell below the established bandwidth, staff found that UIL was authorized in accordance with its FRP to adjust rates to generate an increase of $955,154 for water and $888,420 for wastewater. Staff filed its report and recommendation into the record on August 30th of 24. Upon review, UIL indicated that the company accepted staff's report and recommendation and filed notice of this effect. The parties' agreement, staff and UIL filed a joint report and draft order into the record on September 24th, 2024. Staff recommends that the Commission accept the joint report filed into the record on September 24th of 2024.
Motion to accept staff recommendation.
Motion to accept staff recommendation by Commissioner Green, seconded by Chair. Is there any discussion or opposition? Hearing none, it's in the books. Number 10.
Exhibit number 10 is docket number U37222. This is Jefferson Davis Electric Cooperative's request for approval of a revenue adjustment, establishment of a formula rate plan, continuation of its storm rider, modifications to its terms and conditions and associated rate schedules, and for interim rate relief. This is a discussion and possible vote on an interim rate increase pursuant to Rule 57 at the request of the chair, and this will need 2 votes. On May 31st of 2024, JDEC filed the instant application indicating its application that its current financial operations are unsustainable and that a rate increase is necessary to approve the cooperative's negative operating balance and allow the cooperative to pay operating expenses. JDEC further indicates that its request for interim rate relief is necessary due to the immediacy of the cooperative's needed financial relief. JDEC's proposed interim rate increase is 11.65%, and should the interim rate increase be approved, the monthly bill for a typical residential member using 1,000 kilowatt hours would increase $15.07. The cooperative proposes to begin implementing the interim rate, if approved, in the first billing cycle of November 2024, and would continue to charge that rate until a final permanent rate is established. Staff recommends that the Commission exercise its original and primary jurisdiction under Rule 57 to consider JDEC's request, but while staff makes no formal recommendation regarding the interim rate increase, staff does note that pursuant to applicable law, any interim increase should be subject to refund and the applicable bonding requirements. If JDEC's request is approved, staff would recommend JDEC be required to file proof of the applicable bonding requirements, file an updated tariff indicating the interim rate and its terms within 30 days of the order approving the interim rate, and that JDEC cannot begin charging the interim rate until proof of the applicable bonding requirements and an updated tariff have been provided to and approved by staff.
Motion Rule 57.
Moved, take us up under Rule 57 by Commissioner Green, second by the chair, and then I move that we approve this staff recommendation.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Green. I'd like to ask Commissioner Lewis if he has any comments on this.
Yes, can I have a rep from JDEC just for a few questions?
JDEC, come up, please.
Just make sure you fill out the cards or sign it if you're speaking, if you hadn't already done so.
Speak into the mic real closely and
Sure. Good morning, Commissioners.
let us know who's here.
Yeah, I have Mike Heinen with me, the GM and CEO of Jeff Davis, and we have two representatives from our consultants from CFC, Jason Strong and
You can
Paul
have to
DiCerio.
speak closer to the microphone. It's not being cooperative.
All right, well, Kara Cantro, on behalf of Jeff Davis, I have with me Mike Heinen, the CEO and GM of Jeff Davis, and we also have our rate consultants with us, Jason Strong and Paul DiCerio.
Thank you, and thank you all for being here. I just have a few questions. And so, to my understanding, CFC, you conducted this analysis pro bono in an emergency standpoint because of the financial strain of JDEC. Is that a fair analysis of what you did?
I believe that's a fair representation. I'm Jason Strong. I'm the Vice President of Utility Pricing Policy and Analytics employed by CFC. As part of CFC's services to our members is a suite of value-added services. I head up a team of rate consultants working with the electric cooperative network, provided at no charge to our members, yes.
Thank you. Can you just, at least for me, give a little bit more context of what your analysis showed and why an interim rate is needed? I'll preface my questions. I am very skeptical of interim rates across the board as a policy matter, because I think that's the point of rate cases, is to go and dig into the financial structure. But when these cases are presented, I'm very curious on what is your analysis showcasing that is the reasoning or the justification that you believe we should approve this request today before we finalize the entire rate case that is before us?
Well, based on our analysis, 2023 adjusted test year, Jefferson Davis was at the end of the test year sitting at negative $6.4 million in operating margins. Now, proposing interim rates allows Jeff Davis, given their current cash position, to continue to operate and pay their bills, while the larger rate case is ongoing, subject to refund and the bonding requirements. But the interim rates would be that initial step to fulfill their needs for providing electric service to their membership.
Thank you, and a few questions for JDEC's leadership. This is a pretty high ask. If we do the more average, which would be 1250 kWh, we're talking about around almost $19. And then looking at your kind of average usage for 2023, the average customer was using around almost 1,500 kWh. And so that does give me some pause. This would be a significant increase on your members and your ratepayers. Can you give me any plans that you have to not catch these people off guard with such a massive increase. I mean, a nearly $20 increase on a utility bill could really make a difference for some people.
Yes, sir, we definitely understand that. We're in the position that we are due to the hurricanes that came through, but we're going to be sending individual letters to each member of the co-op outside of their billing that they get from us. So it'll be individual letters stating what's happening and why it's happening, and it's mostly due to inflation and the concerns of materials and the higher cost of just of everything. And we're also going to be posting this on social media and probably putting it in Louisiana Country magazine that we put out every other month, and trying to get this in front of the people before the rate actually goes into effect. But the individual letter to each member will be done before the rate goes into effect.
Thank you. And one last question for staff. Can you tell me where we stand in the procedural schedule on the full rate case application? Like what time are we looking at potentially being for a final recommendation, our staff's position?
So Lauren Evans on behalf of staff, the application was filed on May 31st, and typically it takes us a year to complete rate cases. So I would assume middle of the year next year. I mean, we've just begun looking at it.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Middle of next year?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Ms. Cantro, that sound about right for your schedule?
Yeah, that's about right. The hearing, that's correct. Our hearing is set for late February.
So you gonna wrap things up in February?
That's just the hearing at the commission. So I think Ms. Evans was correct in what she said.
I want to know when's it gonna finish? When will it be done? To answer Mr. Lewis' question.
I think it depends on the staff's recommendation, which is due out in November, and depending on where Jeff Davis falls with the staff recommendation, if it's contested or uncontested. Hopefully, if it's uncontested, it can be even shorter.
What's the date?
The hearing that is currently set is for the end of February. I believe staff's recommendation is out due sometime in November. So hopefully the parties can work together and we can short circuit it and get it done quickly. But if not, we have our hearing date set and we'll go with that procedural schedule.
Did you get an answer on that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you're good. Well, I'm like Commissioner Lewis. I don't like interim rates, but this area has been devastated with these hurricanes. That's one of our problems that's causing this. And I think my experience with your communicating with the ratepayers, I know they're very aware of what you're trying to do for them. So I'm okay with the interim rates, and I support that. Thank y'all for coming out here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So do we have a motion yet?
Yes, sir. There was a motion by you and a second by Commissioner Green to allow the interim rate increase pursuant to bonding requirements.
So I'm having a hard time understanding your.
I'm sorry. Yes, sir. You made a motion seconded by Commissioner Green to allow the interim rate increase subject to bonding requirements.
Okay. So is there any other opposition to it? Hearing none, it's approved. Staff's recommendation. Where are we at? Number 11?
Yes, sir. So exhibit number 11 is docket number U37341. This is Point Capee Electric Membership Cooperative's application for an increase of base rates, including request for an interim rate relief, request for associated tariff modifications, and request to establish a formula rate plan and emergency reserve fund. It is also a discussion and possible vote on an interim rate increase pursuant to Rule 57 of the Commission's Rules of Practice and Procedure, so this will need 2 votes. On July 30th of 2024, Point Capee filed its application, which was published in the Commission's official bulletin with no interventions received. In the current application, Point Capee states that it has an immediate need to increase base rates to position Point Capee to regain compliance with its covenants and its lenders. Point Capee is requesting the authority to immediately implement an interim increase in the amount of 60% of the overall requested increase, and it seeks this to mitigate the member impact of the needed rate increase by phasing in the increase through an initial interim millage increase. Point Capee has indicated in the application that should this interim rate increase be approved, the monthly bill for a residential customer using 1,250 kilowatt kilowatt-hour should increase $13.02. Staff recommends that the commission exercise its original and primary jurisdiction under Rule 57, and while staff makes no formal recommendation regarding the interim rate increase, staff does note that pursuant to the applicable law, any interim increase should be subject to refund and the applicable bonding requirements. And if Point Copi's request is approved, staff recommends that Point Copy be required to file proof of the applicable bond requirements with the commission, file an updated tariff with the Utilities Division within 30 days of the order, and that Point Copy cannot begin charging the interim rate increase until proof of the applicable bond requirements and an updated tariff have been provided to and approved by staff.
Motion to accept staff Rule 57.
Here we go.
Move to accept this case under Rule 57 by Commissioner Green, seconded by Chairman.
Motion to accept staff recommendation.
Motion to accept staff recommendation by Commissioner Green, seconded by the Chair, and we'd like to have Myron come up. Got some questions for you from Commissioner Lewis. Any kind of help you might have to come along with you.
And Myron and Jennifer, to make it easier for you, most of my questions are the same that I posed to JDEC, so instead of reading through them, I'll just...
So go ahead and announce your name, who it is.
Jennifer Vosberg, attorney for Point Copy Electric.
Myron Lambert, general manager for Point Copy Electric.
Thank you.
I mean, like I said, I have some of the same questions. I mean, I guess we'll start, I mean, this is a significant ask, and I'll start kind of where I ended with JDEC. Can you just explain your process of communication to your members and ratepayers on this interim rate?
Commissioner, within compliance of the rate case, we've already advertised our need to increase rates. We'll do the same avenue. We'll advertise, send on a bill, as well as social media. And as I've committed to you, we'll continue to work with ratepayers that request assistance and bill payment plans.
Thank you. Thank you for that, and also thank you for the time we spent going over. Ms. Vosberg, can you just briefly just kind of explain the financial situation of why an interim rate was requested and the financial situation that Point Copy Electric is facing, and why we're kind of going before the procedural schedule here of the rate case?
Yes, Commissioner. As we explained in our application, it's no mystery. It is high interest rates, it's inflation, and the timing of when we're now coming in for our rate case, it really made it kind of a prime time for us to be able to pursue the rate case, looking at what's going on with the impact of high interest on short-term loans. What we have seen is, even though we have been under a formula rate plan that has since expired in the last year, and we are seeking to go back underneath a formula rate plan in our application, Point Copy has not been able to meet its covenants of its RUS loans. We have been underneath the bandwidth for the last 2 years. We are not on track to make it for this year as well. We have been able to work with RUS on that to provide remedial plans. However, but on our procedural schedule, we're a little bit behind on the Jeff Davis's procedural schedule. We go to staff recommendation will come out in January. We are set for our hearing in April. We also will, work to reach a settlement with staff on this matter so we can accelerate it. But by doing an interim right now, which is 60% of our revenue requirement ask, it would allow us to start really, it's not going to save us for 2024, but it will allow us to start building up income for the next few months, and as we move into getting the resolution of the rate case, to put us in a better position to make our covenants for 2025. So that is this portion of the request for the interim, is to help us get that revenue coming in right now.
And you do see some further relief coming from your wholesale contract, correct? When that comes online in 25.
Yes, Commissioner. When we looked at the timing of it, the calculation of doing the 60%, we looked at it. We typically are a summer peaker, so we're looking at lower usage months going forward, so the impact would be minimized for our ratepayers, and our new wholesale contracts will start on April 1st. So with timing-wise, by the time a full rate case would come in, we would see rate relief coming in from the wholesale side.
Great, thank you. And And Ms. Evans probably should thank you because you answered my question that was going to be for her. So I don't have to ask staff a question because you answered it already. Thank you.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Is and discussion. So is there any other discussion or any opposition? Hearing none. Looks like y'all been given your interim rate increase. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Exhibit number 12.
Oh, 12, sorry.
Yes, sir. That's okay. Is undocketed. It's a solicitation of United Professionals Company and Stone Pigman Walther Whitman for continuation of their RTO monitoring services in both MISO and SPP. It's a discussion and possible vote to retain UPC and Stone Pigman. Since 2014, UPC and Stone Pigman have assisted the Commission in monitoring services for MISO and SPP markets and stakeholder proceedings, as well as providing services in numerous litigated matters at FERC and other federal courts. The Commission's general order dated November 10th of 2014 does not require a formal RFP when the consultant or counsel were previously retained to assist Commission with matters substantially related. UPC and Stone Pigman services have previously been renewed twice by the Commission to assist staff with these services. Additionally, the Commission's general order allows for retention of outside services with no total estimated budget in certain circumstances. In response to staff solicitation, UPC and Stone Pigman submitted a joint proposal with yearly renewals subsequent thereto at the discretion of the Commission. The joint proposal separates services between 1, RTO monitoring, 2, RTO-related federal regulatory matters, and 3, non-RTO-related federal regulatory matters. The current discounted rates will remain through the end of the current term. In all instances, UPC and Stone Pigman services are subject to Commission approval, and if pre-approval cannot be obtained due to restricted timelines, UPC and Stone Pigman will consult with the Executive Secretary or the Executive Council prior to taking any action, which is then subject to ratification at a subsequent B&E. Staff recommends that the Commission extend the retention of UPC and Stone Pigman through December 31st of 2030 for the following services: for RTO monitoring services and RTO-related federal regulatory matters at a capped hourly rate of $255 an hour for UPC and a capped hourly rate of $450 for Stone Pigman, and for non-RTO-related federal regulatory matters is a capped hourly rate of $295 for UPC and a capped hourly rate of $475 for Stone Pigman.
Move to accept staff recommendation. Second.
Move to accept staff recommendation by Commissioner Scametta, second by Commissioner Lewis. I can give a short testimony. I serve on the Southwest Power Pool RTO with the assistance of Stone and United Professionals. They've done a good job. I wouldn't know what to do without them. It's a very complicated job. It's a team effort. If you see any one person that's doing the whole thing, you better be careful because they're probably out of their league. So I strongly recommend we approve this. Is there any objection or any other conversations? So I want to just thank y'all for giving us some more money for these people to help us because it's a tough job. So this is approved. 13?
Yes, sir. Exhibit number 13 is our reports, resolutions, discussions. As mentioned earlier, the report from Correctional Institution Services is deferred to next month. And then we have a vote ratification. It's a discussion and possible vote to ratify interventions of the Commission in RTO-related or other federal regulatory proceedings. And this is also for UPC and Stone Pigman, due to their retention with us, and due to the short deadlines allowed for interventions, if advanced Commission approval is not possible, the Executive Secretary, on the recommendation of UPC or Stone Pigman, may authorize the initial interventions, comments, or protests subject to ratification. Interventions were filed on behalf of the Commission in the following dockets: docket ER 24-2797, ER 24-2871, ER 24-2825, and ER 24-2798. All four of those were dockless interventions, and staff recommends that the Commission ratify those.
Move to accept staff recommendations for ratification. Second.
Commissioner Scamata moves that we accept exhibit number 13, and it's seconded by Commissioner Greens. Any conversation or opposition? Hearing none, 13 is in the books.
Exhibit number 14 is FERC docket numbers ER 18-194 and ER 18-195. It's a discussion, possible executive session to discuss litigation strategy pursuant to revised statute 4216 exec and vote regarding treatment of the NOLC ADIT in FERC docket numbers ER 18-194 and ER 18-195. We do not need an executive session. I believe between Stone Pigman, UPC, and myself, we've had conversations with each of you, independently before today. So if we do not need a executive session, staff would recommend that the commission authorize special counsel to draft and submit a request for guidance to the IRS, seeking additional guidance regarding the proper method of calculating NOLC ADIT for rate-making purposes, and to take such other action as may be necessary to address this issue with the IRS and the FERC.
Move to accept staff recommendation.
Second.
Commissioner Scamata moves that we accept staff recommendation, seconded by Commissioner Green and Lewis. So we're all approved there. Moving on.
Okay, moving on. Exhibit 15 is a directive to staff to investigate the impact of personal generators on jurisdictional gas companies. This is at the request of the chair. And the directive is, during Hurricane Francine, reports suggested that home standby generator usage led to increased demand for natural gas and therefore resulted in decreases in gas pressure in some local distribution systems, a number of which may be LPSC jurisdictional. Louisiana is always at risk of severe weather, and with the rise in use of home standby generators, we can expect this issue will occur again, potentially with greater impacts as more home standby generators are added to the gas systems. I believe it is the Commission's duty to be aware of such events as they may affect the reliability of service provided by our gas companies. Therefore, I direct staff to investigate the impact of personal generators on our jurisdictional gas companies, including potentially collaborating with the Louisiana Department of Natural Resources given our shared regulatory authority. I do not believe a docket needs to be opened at this time. However, if staff determines that a docket should be opened, I direct them to do so and to issue RFPs to retain any necessary outside counsel or consultants needed to perform the evaluation.
And just to add to this, Mr. Chairman, this is what you mentioned during the South Coast exhibit. This issue was brought up at GOSEP during Francine, where we heard there were stories that made it on social media and in the media, and I know Commissioner Lewis, I think you were asked for comments on it as well, where some municipal systems not regulated by us that may have a older infrastructure could not withstand the load or the demand that these generators put on the system, and you had pressure drops and service not being able to be provided. So we had started the discussion with our LDCs, and I believe they're going to have some good data that's going to show what the impact is on their systems individually in areas where it's affected, where you see these spikes. Is it similar to what we'll see when heaters come on or not? But I think it's important for us to understand this and see now before we have more if there's safeguards need to be put in place. And we've got a good relationship with Louisiana Department of Energy and Natural Resources and their pipeline safety division, so we're going to meet with them as well. They'll probably have data from the systems we don't regulate and see if there's anything we need to do. But we're kind of in the fact-finding phase right now and want to get ahead of this before it becomes a bigger issue.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Commissioner Scamata.
I've been serving on the NARUC's National Gas Infrastructure Task Force for now over a year, and well, almost a year next month. And we've been looking at sort of the national sort of profile of issues associated with sort of either maintaining, deconstructing, expansion of gas infrastructure. And you're going to see, I think, with general concern in our particular area, either maintenance or expansion of gas infrastructure is going to become a critical factor. The growth of advertised backup generators, as well as general purpose of people wanting to have backup generators, is going to make for greater demand. So we're going to have to look at systems we regulate, obviously, to make sure that capacity's there. I'm not sure if it's any specialized element of is it certain, rate, differentials. But I think it's more about, working with our gas providers to make sure that they can meet the step-up demand questions about putting, volume through the pipelines. We've had a meeting with the geniuses in the universe about a week ago about gas supplies for the winter, and storage is full, pipeline storage is full, plenty of gas in the ground that could be out in 30 days. So there's no shortage of natural gas. It's going to be about, determination of how we're going to increase volumetric flow of natural gas through either the existing system or modification of the system to, serve the needs of the public and what the public wants. So I think this is a good opportunity for us to look at this and work with our residential gas suppliers, and also include in that our wholesale gas folks, Transamerica or forget what the name of the pipeline companies are, but all of our pipeline companies that provide the wholesale gas into the system, and work with them on, there are opportunities of full knowledge of preparation of when we know we're going to need, for the most part, more gas. We know that there's going to be increased demand. We know where there's going to be a hurricane 3 days out. I mean, sometimes we don't, and it's like an emergency pop, but those are manageable. But, working with the wholesalers, working with the retailers, and working with the engineers on design, I think will help us accomplish the goals that are going to be sought out in these things.
I agree. And one thing as simple as, so when you're installing a standby generator at your house, you've got to coordinate that with your electric provider because it's going into the meter. But the gas provider, if you already got gas service there, I don't know that they're going to have any knowledge.
You got to get a permit.
So,
your local, government, right. And the local government's going to have information on that they could share.
Yes.
So there's a lot of information that goes back and forth. And the average home gas service is somewhat limited on the volume it can provide to a gas generator. So sometimes they need bigger lines. And so there's a lot of question marks involved in, in doing an installation like that. So I think there's enough information out there if people share information that can help build out the information that folks are going to need to build better systems for the future. So just getting folks sharing information and getting together from government, business, and commercial sellers to where they can work together on this, I think will provide the information necessary, because people want to make sure that when they want a generator, they're going to get the gas to run it on. So, thank you.
Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity for the Public Service Commission to help solve this problem and keep the lights on Louisiana. So, does anyone want to make a motion to
move to adjourn?
Okay. Make a motion to adjourn, and second. It's over.